The hardest part, uh, the hardest part, I think, is you don't have a lot of control over who's going to read it or how to reach those people. That the hardest part is trying to figure out basically how to sell it when you're not the one selling it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius.
And welcome to the Tiberius Show today. I'm your host, Tiberius Boy. And as always, we're looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today's guest is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk to a science and technology librarian. Do you have any idea what this really is about? Well, I think I know a little bit, like the librarian part, but not the other part. So you know what? Let's just talk to this lady and find out. Let me introduce our next guest, the one, the only, the amazing Catherine Wells.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Tiberius, for inviting me to join you today.
No problem. Okay, so you are listed as a science and technology librarian. Now, most of us remember, like, a librarian is telling us, like, be quiet at school. But can you explain to my listeners exactly what is the difference between a science and technology librarian and a regular librarian?
Well, a lot of it depends on what kind of library you're in. A university library, for instance, or a company library. I worked in a company library, a corporate library, and in that situation, a science and technology librarian gets to just really focus on the particular areas of science and technology that are important to the company that she's working for.
So you help people find books that they would need for their research, and how do you do that?
Well, I keep a track of the new books coming available in those areas, and I go through and try to select the ones that I think will be useful to the people who use my library. And then I order those and have them available. I also take suggestions from the employees of the company, what they need to support their work. And it's very focused as opposed to public libraries and school libraries and broad academic libraries where you have to have the whole spectrum and you have to cover a whole lot of fields. So it allows you to really kind of focus in on one particular area and support that.
So are these libraries mainly in colleges, or are there public science and technology libraries?
I'm not aware of public libraries that are dedicated strictly to science and technology. They would mostly be in the academic area, particularly colleges and universities.
So Catherine, what got you interested in wanting to be a library?
Oh, I've had an interest in libraries for a long time. In high school, I was kind of an assistant to the librarian, so I got exposure there on what some of the tasks are and so forth. I've always been a reader. I've always loved books, and more than, well, I wouldn't say more than that, but equal with that, I like to organize things. I like to be prepared. I like to get things sorted out so you can find them easily, so they're useful. They're there when you need them, and I like the service industry. I like to be able to meet people's needs.
So do you find people to try and use you to try and do the research for them, or like to just get out of stuff doing stuff in class?
Well, actually, in a company library, that's sort of what we're supposed to do.
Oh.
We're supposed to help do the research. I did quite a bit of searching on the internet, various databases, and if people needed help, can you find me information on this topic? I had a young fellow come in one time who was working on his master's degree in electrical engineering, and he was writing he was writing a paper and needed some references to cite to support his paper, and he didn't know how to get them. So, well, he tried, a Google search, put in electrical engineering, got 3 million responses. So I was able to direct him to an appropriate database that was strictly science and engineering information. And he was able to then go through and search his topic more specifically and get what he needed. So that was how I was helping him in that way.
Huh. So what do you think is better, reading a paper book or listening to an audiobook?
Well, it depends on, the book, for one thing. Some books come across better on audio. I listen to audiobooks and I read paper books and ebooks. And some books are better in one medium and some are better in the other. So it just kind of depends on the hard science things. You kind of want a print book that you can refer to and, look things up in the index and all that.
So what was the hardest search that you had to do as a librarian?
Oh, the hardest search. Let's see. I guess one time a fellow came in and asked me if I could look up something to do with the physics term erg, which is for work. And I honestly didn't know what he was talking about. And so it was difficult for me. I had to figure out what exactly he needed before I could go ahead and do any kind of a search.
Huh. So, do you get to be there for, the events where the authors do, the signings and stuff? Or no?
Oh, I've done some author signings, yes. Not a whole lot, but I've done that too.
What is one thing you think kids should know about being a science and technology librarian?
Okay, the thing to know is scientists and engineers are very knowledgeable in science and technology to start with. So a lot of times what they really need is just information about what's new and what's breaking. They can't always have the time to, keep up with what's in the latest journals and so forth. So it's important to kind of be on top of that, what's happening in the field, so that you can have resources available and ready for them to use.
Now, here seems like a good time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear word from our sponsors.
So you want to make an ad for your company, right?
Yeah, Tiberius, you want to help me?
Okay, so what's the name of the company?
PPWND.
PP what?
Professional Pressure Washing and Detailing.
So you clean driveways?
Yeah, like that. We pressure wash commercial buildings and semi-truck and trailers.
So how would someone get a hold of you?
They can visit my site at ppwnd.com or call me at 407-900-7793.
So I just tell them to call you at 407-900-7793 or visit ppwnd.com?
Yeah, Tiberius, you got it.
Cut! That's a wrap! Just use that!
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
And we're back here talking with Catherine Wells, a science and technology librarian and a published author. So Catherine, this is awesome. What types of books do you like to write about?
Oh, I write mostly science fiction books. I have one historical fiction book that's published, but mostly it's science fiction.
Huh, so why did you select sci-fi?
Well, it's kind of funny because when I read, I like to read historical fiction as well as science fiction. And the first novel that I had published, The Earth Is All That Lasts, I got started on it because I found the Pueblo ruins in Arizona very interesting. And I thought, Well, I don't want to write a historical fiction novel because that would take a whole lot of research. But if I set it in the future, I could write a science fiction novel. And you know what? I still had to do a whole lot of research.
So, what motivated you to want to become an author?
I've always wanted to write, and I come from a long line of storytellers to start with. The family was always telling stories, and my older brother came home from school one day with a short story that he had been assigned to write for class. And I read that short story and I thought, oh, that's really cool that you can write down your story. So I started doing it too. My first short story was almost a direct steal from what he had written, but it got me started and I just went on from there.
So, was it hard to find someone to publish your book?
It was. And the important thing to remember about getting a book published is the first thing you have to do is write a good book, write a really good book. When I started writing, we still sent manuscripts, paper manuscripts, to the editors through the mail. And I had several of those rejected before I finally sat back and said, I need to figure out how to write a novel before I send any more of these out. And I did a lot of vetting with what we call beta readers, people who would read it for me and give me feedback before I sent it out. And with that, then I was able to send what they call over the transom. The transom, being that opening over a door that you like throw stuff through. In the old days, you used to be able to throw stuff through there. But I actually did that. I researched publishers to see who was publishing the kind of fiction I wrote. And then that's who I contacted. And they were very gracious and said, we're interested in your book and there are some changes we would like you to make. And here's a list of changes, 2 pages of changes. So then I wrote back to them with how I would address those requests for changes. And we went from there. We got a contract. So it was great.
Nice. So, how many books have you written?
Well, Currently, I have published, I believe, 8 novels. I've written more than that. I haven't sold them all yet.
So, do you ever create characters for your own book based on people that you know in real life?
Oh, I think most writers kind of steal from people they know. It's not a direct steal or duplication. But, you take a little something from this person, a little something from that person. And, it makes more believable characters when you can borrow some of those traits from the people you know.
So, how long did it take to write your series, Aztec Eagle? That's the one for teens and young adults, right?
Yes, that one starts out with a character who, in the first book, covers from ages 5 to 17, and in the second book, ages 17 to 20, and then it goes on from there. And the series, it took me a long time to sell the first one. So if you don't count the 20 years it took me to find a publisher for that, it usually only takes me about a year per book to get it all put together.
Huh. So what's the hardest part about being an author?
The hardest part, I think, is you don't have a lot of control over who's going to read it or how to reach those people. The hardest part is trying to figure out basically how to sell it when you're not the one selling it.
So, do you get to travel all over the world promoting your book?
I wish. I traveled a little bit doing research when I was doing my historical novel on the High King Macbeth. We did go to Scotland, and I checked out some of the places that were settings for the book. But other than that, no, publishers, you have to be a really big name, and they have to have prospect of selling hundreds of thousands of your books. Well, hundreds of thousands of your books before they're going to go ahead and send you on a world tour.
So, Catherine, what is the most misunderstood part about your work?
The most misunderstood, well, in library science, the misunderstanding is that you've read all the books in your library. No, I haven't got time to read all of that. As a writer, the misunderstood part, I think, is that writers make a lot of money. Most of us don't. Most of the published works that you see out there, writers are not really making a living. Most of us have a day job.
So, who can you say was the person that helped drive your passion the most?
Oh gosh, there have been so many people along the way. I had a high school English teacher who was very supportive. And in college, I had a theater professor who would read my stuff and gave me some good advice. And so I felt encouraged by those people. But really, you got to have it in yourself. It has to be something that you enjoy so much that you're willing to invest all the time that's necessary just in order to be able to share it with other people. It's not, I tell young people who are interested in writing, if you can do anything else and be happy, do that. If you really can't be happy unless you're writing, then that's when you need to write.
Yeah. So what was the most fun thing that you can say on a kid's show that you've ever done in the library?
The most fun thing I've ever done in the library, you're going to think this is crazy, moving the library. When I was working at the Science and Technology Library that was for a Fortune 500 company, I moved the library 4 times. Pack up all the books, journals, everything, and of course I had help. But the planning and the coordination to get from one space to another space, that I just enjoyed that.
4 times? Jeez.
Yeah, they kept moving us around. They needed the space for something else, and so they'd move us to a different location.
So, what message do you tell children all over the world about doing the work that you do?
Well, I sort of already told you that, if you can do anything else and be happy, do that. But if you're going to do this, you need to be serious about it. You need to not just read, but when you read, and read a lot, read other people's work, and stop and think about what is the author doing here, and why are they doing it, and what is it I like about this book, and how did the author achieve that?
Well, on that note, let's take a quick break to pay some bills.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius
sent you.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
And we're back here with Catherine Lowells, librarian, author, and so much more. So, Catherine, when do you think of your many different jobs in your career, there's always that one member that makes you smile? Think about it. It's just a second. Do you have it? What is that memory?
Oh, the memory that makes me smile, I think, was when I had the opportunity to address a plant-wide meeting at this company that I worked at, and show them do a little presentation on what we had done with the library in the past 10 years to serve the company and be useful. And among the things I showed them was how you construct an internet search, how you can link things together, something that we call Boolean language, which engineers know about, connecting words, and how you can screen out some parts of the data pool and keep others together. And one of the simplest things is when you're searching, if you have two words that go together, like electrical engineering, you put it in quotes. And that way you only get electrical engineering responses, not all the electrical responses and all the engineering responses, which is way too much. And the plant manager said to me afterwards, I didn't know that. So that really tickled me and made me smile that I was able to give some useful information to the plant manager.
Yeah, that works. So I hear you're a mom, but what is the best part about having children?
Oh, the best part is watching them become their own selves, growing into the person that they were meant to be. And it's hard for parents because we always have ideas of what we'd like them to be, but you have to let them be who they are rather than what you want them to be.
Well, what is that one thing that happened in your career that you did not expect?
Something I did not expect. Well, in my library career, what I did not expect was having to change jobs when I was getting actually rather close to retirement age. And the company where I worked decided that they didn't really need a library anymore. And that was unexpected. But I was able to find another company. In this case, it was a hospital group that was looking for a librarian. And I was able to finish up my career there in a hospital library.
Huh. Nice. So I assume you got like a ton of awards for your books, but which is the one that surprised you the most?
Oh, the one that really, I guess, surprised me the most was when Mother Grimm was published, and it was nominated for the Philip K. Dick Award. And I was so excited. It was a national award, but I had no idea what it was. I had to go do research to find. I'd never heard of the Philip K. Dick Award, and here I was a finalist for it. So that's the one that tickled me, I think.
Wow. So what have you learned about yourself that you wish that you knew earlier?
Learn about myself. I guess what I've learned about myself is I have kind of an obsessive personality, and I latch on to things, and I worry too much about meeting these expectations that I've set for myself that are really not really important, that they're just kind of arbitrary constructs. I say, I said I'd have supper on the table by 6 o'clock. If it's not there by 6 o'clock, I've done something wrong. And no one's going to keel over from hunger if supper isn't on the table right at 6 o'clock. So that it took me many years to figure this out.
Well, if you could go back in time and give your 14-year-old self advice, what would it be?
At 14, I would say, chill out a little. You don't have to meet all those arbitrary constructed goals that you set for yourself. It's okay to say, well, oops, maybe that isn't going to happen, and let's move on.
Well, so Catherine, on your off time, besides writing, what are your favorite things to do?
Oh, I have a number of hobbies. Of course, I love reading, but my current obsession is video jigsaw puzzles. I love I spend an hour a day working on these, shoving the little pieces around to make them fit in places. Goes back to that love I have for order and filing and getting things where they're supposed to be.
So, do you play any video games, and what's your favorite one?
I play video games on the iPad, and yeah, at the moment that jigsaw puzzle is my favorite. Although I do like a number of the word games too. There's one called Word Cookies that I also try to do every day.
So, what's your favorite book to read, other than your own?
My favorite book of all time is Madeline L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time. I read this when I was in junior high and just fell in love with it. And when my oldest daughter got to junior high, I gave it to her to read. I'm not big on rereading. I mostly go to new material, but I have reread that book several times.
So, what was the biggest mistake that you've ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Oh, I've made any number of mistakes and learned from all of them, I hope. The biggest one, wow. Gosh, I should have had a little more time to think about it. The biggest mistake I've ever made would be, okay, when I graduated college. And I did college in 3 years because I wanted to get married. So, I had to get my college degree first. I went out to get a job because, once you get out of college, you got to make a living. And I went for the lowest common denominator. I went for an office clerk type job in a department store. And it was a really unhappy experience. And when I left that, I just went to another clerical type job. I spent 16 years in clerical jobs before I finally said, you know what? I'm going back to graduate school and get my library science degree and do something that I really love. And that's what I learned is you got to go after what you love.
So, don't work at a department store and be a librarian. Got it.
Hey.
Okay. Now, can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid's show. That one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
If I'm not supposed to tell you, why am I doing it on a podcast? Well, let's see.
I won't tell anyone.
Tell you. Right. Well, let's see. Okay, here's one. When I name characters in my books, the first book that I got published, The Earth Is All That Lasts, I borrowed last names from members of the University of Arizona basketball team. I just thought that was cool. Hey, I need a name for this person. I'm going to put that in there. So, and that worked so well for me that then when I was working employed as a librarian, we had a card file. When people checked out books, they fill out a card and it had the information about the author and the book title and all that. And I looked at these author names and I thought, ooh, that'd be a good name for a character. And so I have borrowed a lot of names from authors to go into my novels.
Huh. So, are you going to make one named Tiberius?
Ooh, that's tempting. I might do that.
Well, is there anything else you think our listeners should know about you and what you do?
Anything else you should know? Well, I guess you should know that I'm really proud of my Aztec Eagle books, and I'm so thankful to Jumpmaster Press for publishing them for me and allowing me to get this story out to people about a young fellow born in Sonora, Mexico, who wants to be a pilot. He wants to be a fighter pilot, and his journey to try to achieve his goal.
So, do you have a Facebook or a website for my listeners who want to follow you?
I do have a Facebook account. You can find me on Catherine.wells.733. And Catherine, now, of course, there are only 24 different ways to spell Catherine. But it's spelled out like Catherine the Great. So if you don't remember how, you can look up Catherine the Great. That's the spelling you use for Catherine.wells.733.
Huh. So, what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
Oh, I think you forgot to ask me when my next book is coming out.
Well, when is it coming out?
Well, actually, I have to finish writing it first, so it will probably be a couple of years. Right now, you can still get the first three books of the Aztec Eagle series, but book 4 is nearing completion.
Ooh.
And then, of course, it'll need to go through the editing process, which can take 12 to 15 months to go through. So in another year's time, maybe start looking for the one. It gives you plenty of time to read the first 3 before the 4th one.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine Wells, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Sure.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And now it's time for Math Corners. Thank you so much, Catherine, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're going to solve multi-step word problems. My dad is always going to find the problems for me to solve, and today, we're going to talk about running a library. Seems similar, right? Well, a librarian named Sarah is organizing books into shelves. She has 432 books to organize. Each shelf can hold 24 books. How many full shelves can Sarah fill? And how many books will she have left over? And if it takes 6 minutes to organize each shelf, how long will it take to do the job?
I don't do math in my head. I'm sorry. I would need a calculator to figure that out.
Okay, well, this is a real-world problem because, you do have to keep track of your books in a library. But I don't think it matters how many books on a shelf since, some books are larger than another. But I guess, for the sake of math, let's just do it. So first you have to take the 432 books and divide it by 24 books per shelf. Okay, so I'm just going to use my calculator, since I'm now in higher math, that lets me do it. Wait, it says 18, so 18 shelves, but there was no remainder. So there's no books left over. Then to determine the time, you take the 18 shelves and times that by 6, because it's 6 minutes. It's 108 minutes or an hour and 48 minutes to do the job. That's having the shelves all there and having the books already there, Just gotta organize them.
Right.
So, Catherine, do you have to count all the books on the shelves, or do you just place them based on their subject matter?
I don't actually count them, but I try to just allow a little extra space on every shelf for expansion so that if a new book comes, I don't have to rearrange all the books to get it in place.
Well, my teacher said that I would use math every day. How do you use math with your work?
For one thing, your budget. You have a certain amount of money to work with, and you have to be able to stay within that budget. So when you're buying things, you need to keep track and watch your budget. And the other thing is, if you do have to move your library, as I did 4 times, you have to know the space, the size of the space you're going into, how many feet and inches, how tall are the ceilings, will they accommodate the bookshelves that you've got? So you got to measure all the furniture, figure out where to place it in the new location, and meet ADA requirements. So you have to have 36 inches between the shelving units. And there's a lot of math involved in doing that.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for your help with Math Corners.
My pleasure.
And And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the Heart of a Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and ability. This week, we're going to talk about leadership. For me, I think leadership is the act of loving what is good, having self-control, and being disciplined. The qualities of leadership are providing guidance and direction, organization, and being a positive influence on others. So this week, I was at my middle school social, and I was a part of the people helping out and working at the station. So this year's theme was Carnival, so obviously I had to show up in my outfit. And I was being a leader and showing everyone what to do and where to go and have the most amount of fun as possible. There was pizza, soda, and I was running the water pong station, kinda based off of beer pong, and I can tell you, these kids are ready for college. Now, how the game worked is, there was 10 cups, and you had to throw a ping pong ball in, and different cups had different tickets. So whichever one you hit it in is the amount of tickets you get. So it was actually a popular station, and I got to use my skills as a showman to do the step right up, and all that stuff. I mean, I even showed leadership when running the sack races towards the end with my amazing showman voice. It was a lot of fun, and all of my friends went. So, Catherine, do you have an example of leadership that you saw this week?
Oh, I sing in a church choir, and at our church service last Sunday, we stream it live, and we had a technical issue that they had to stop and fix. And in the meantime, the technician said, just go ahead with the service, and the parts that we've missed we'll add in at the end. And then she was looking for someone to get that going. And Will, would you go ahead and do the next piece of the service? And he didn't know what was. And the organist, who is on staff at the church, and you wouldn't normally think of as a leadership person, and yet he came away from the organ, stepped down, and took over, and was the leader for that part of the service until they got everything back up and running again. So that was excellent leadership.
Huh. Wow. So, Catherine, of all of the Heart of a Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
The one that I see most? I guess in where I live, what I see most is integrity. We have a rather close neighborhood, and I know most of my neighbors. And I see a great deal of integrity and responsibility to the welfare of the neighborhood and of the world. So I see a lot of integrity.
Well, we should always try to be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Yes, we should.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Catherine Wells for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about your work as a librarian and a published author.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here. I have enjoyed it.
Do you mind giving your social media and website again?
Sure, it's Catherine.wells.733 on Facebook.
Okay, well also you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show, and I would like to thank WWPR 1490 AM, K1998, Soul Radio 24/7, EasyWay TV, and all the other stations that air my show. And please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show and hit that subscribe button. And, Catherine, are you subscribed yet?
It's on my to-do list.
Okay. Oh, and be sure to leave me a comment if you want to work in a library. Shh. I answer all the comments myself. And also, be sure to do this next one on the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.